So the brand had lost market leadership, and with that had lost confidence, capability, momentum.
Direct Line had just become one of a pack.
This was really a brand in deep trouble.
Jenny, Winston Wolfe.
Winston Wolfe. Winston Wolfe.
Winston Wolfe.
Winston Wolfe, the archetypal fixer.
I'm Winston Wolfe. I fix problems.
The big unmet need was actually, I just want insurance that works.
The conversation we're going to have is about high-performance insurance.
It's marketing 101, and that's what I love.
Don't worry, Direct Line will find you another one like it.
TV was able to deliver the mass reach that we needed, the right audience with the right message at the right time.
The power of an insight to transform a brand or a business even is really still as powerful as it always was.
Confident organisations do things confidently.
And that's just been fantastic. You know, it's real marketing discipline at its best.
I'll see you crazy kids around.
Direct Line was started back in 1985 when to buy your insurance you had to go to your local high street broker, and it was founded as the first direct insurer that started selling to consumers over the telephone, believing that was simpler and easier for consumers. And it grew rapidly over the next sort of 10 years. Very quickly became the UK's leading car insurer. By the late 90s, there was a plethora of direct insurers. I don't know if you remember, but your Yellow Pages was probably that thick. It was full of adverts for direct insurance companies, all promising the same, to save you pounds, to save you lots of money. And as a consumer, it became a bit bewildering. And that was the uprise of the price comparison site, who spotted an opportunity in the market to really help consumers make their decision when they were coming to shop for insurance. So the direct market that Direct Line played in shrunk considerably. It had a number of significant impacts for us. First of all, right at the outset of the price comparison sites, decided that we were not going to place Direct Line there because it just went against the whole ethos of the company, which was around dealing direct with our customers.
Well, we're not on price comparison sites. That's why last year nearly 1 million people came to us direct to buy their insurance.
That's why we camped outside all night.
He didn't fancy queuing behind 1 million people.
So there was a distribution channel that had opened up that we decided we didn't want to be part of. But the other impact of price comparison sites, it started to drive the commoditisation of direct insurers, because it did all become about finding the cheapest deal you would get on a price comparison site, and it was all around ranking based on price. Despite what we might like to think of ourselves, the brand was no longer a market leader. Brand tracking studies showed that we'd lost brand momentum, we'd lost real distinctiveness for the brand, and that was a real wake-up call that actually we've gone from being market leader to now just being part of the pack.
Well, from its heyday, the company had actually fallen from grace quite badly. I could use a word, death slide, and that wouldn't be inaccurate. So had we continued, I think that the business model itself was potentially unravelling. So it was a bit of a do or die moment.
First thing that struck us about Direct Line is not only had they got a communications problem, they needed more potent and effective communications. They also had a brand problem, because Direct Line, once the revolutionary of that marketplace had lost its mojo. And there was also a pretty significant category problem where, to be honest, people were being asked to choose their insurance on the basis of price alone, not whether it worked, and also the offer of a free cuddly toy. That seemed to us like the category gone mad, the brand was in trouble, and communications needed fixing. So it's a pretty profound sort of diagnosis that they were in trouble on a lot of fronts, and that we needed a solution that could solve all of those three things simultaneously.
So we went on a big insight programme through 2013 and 2014 to really get under the skin of the market and really find some real kind of unmet needs that Direct Line could really tap into. In doing that, I found and identified a group of customers who actually valued insurance. They're the kind of prepared people, and they felt badly let down by the category, because at point of need, at claim, when they've got water pouring through their ceiling or when their car's off the road, they just found it so frustrating to deal with and so hassle. And instead of thinking, don't worry, I'll phone the insurance company, the first reaction was, oh God, now I'm going to have to phone the insurance company. And that was just wrong.
And so it was a very, very simple idea. And I love the notion that you need to be able to get your brand equity down into one word. And for us, fixer is obviously that word. But that then became the lightning rod for everything else. It set the expectation on our supply chain, on our operations, on our digital, on our social media. And it really galvanised the whole organisation and became the point that we could all align upon, so that the effort was sort of synergistic and cumulative. So it was really, really getting very simple in the core idea that enabled us to make all the other complicated things come together.
We locked onto this idea of high-performance insurance, and we were talking about this and about the way in which we just want that problem solved. We'd been having that conversation. We walked out, and I remember Paul Silburn, who's the ECD on Direct Line, said, "Do you know what? It's a little bit like that scene in Pulp Fiction where Winston Wolfe comes and sorts out a problem caused by Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta blowing the brains of some bloke out in the back of a Chevy Nova." And you go, maybe. I mean, and I think that's still one of those joyful moments about our industry is where you have these profound creative leaps you can't see coming, and suddenly the world makes sense around you. We pitched lots of ideas, and it's only over time that the genius of that has been shown. But that was the moment.
You're Dave, right?
Yeah?
Winston Wolfe. I fix problems. May I come in?
Sure.
You must be Lucy. I understand your computer, TV, and bike have been stolen, right?
Right.
And you've sent photos of these items to Direct Line.
Yeah.
Then if all is good, replacements will be ready to send within 8 hours.
So I can say that this was probably the best pitch I've ever been involved in. One of those moments where the hair really stands up on the back of your neck and you know you've got something special and you need to fight really hard to make it happen, knowing it's not going to be easy. So we asked them to come in and redo the pitch for our marketing team, because even though we were new or we had something great in our hands, there was actually quite low self-belief in the business and in marketing. And so I think a lot of this story is about marketing 101 and insight, but also about belief and confidence and pride.
So we had a bullseye audience that we designed for, and that was those people who recognised that things go wrong in their life and put plans in place to deal with them. But we also knew from research we did that that also had broader appeal. So while we were designing for a bullseye of just under 3 million people, we knew it had much broader appeal. So therefore it was a real mass market proposition for a mass market brand. And the propositions that we'd run historically that worked best were those which talked to the service of the brand, the service that you could expect when you called Direct Line. That was really important in helping us design propositions for relaunch, but also helping the conversations internally. The consumer psyche of It's All About Price was very much mirrored by many of our internal stakeholders who, again, were still in the place, which is, but surely this is all about a price conversation. So being able to evidence that actually through econometrics that that's not true, that the communications that worked the best were those which had a service proposition at its heart was invaluable.
You agreed with him that if your house became uninhabitable, Direct Line would pick up the tab for alternative accommodation.
Yeah, he did.
Good enough. Let's get you guys to a safe house then.
Yeah, I suppose we said to ourselves that we can now use technology to do things that other insurers are doing in weeks, that we can do in maybe minutes or hours, and certainly days. And so we sort of described it as an Amazonification of our process. So sharing images with consumers to speed up the process, incentivizing our supply chain to get things done fast and efficiently. So it was really a complete reboot of the things that consumers didn't see to make sure that what they did see was just much more simple and faster. So that meant we had to have a lot of buy-in from all parts of the business to go through some uncomfortable change processes to make it right and make it work for consumers.
So it really was about igniting the organisation and trying to reverse the fortunes, the power of the fixer, showing them the consumer feedback that we'd had. And once we got that going, then people people want to be part of something and saying, actually, we're the fixers. I'm going to go and fix this for consumers, and I can see the difference that will make. It was a hard slog to get going, but once we got going, it really had, it really has enlisted the whole organisation behind it, and you have people turning up to work now saying, I'm here, I'm a fixer.
Yeah, so the X Factor launch spot was really important because it allowed us to showcase all three pieces of copy, so the home insurance, the car insurance and the landlord insurance.
Direct Line Insurance was trending on Twitter, which I can categorically say was absolutely a first. It's not something we aimed for, but was quite a pleasant output of our activities.
So after the initial impact and you've kind of created that spike of awareness and kind of reach, you need to then focus on creating a more efficient campaign. So we had a number of different products and pieces of copy which were relevant to different segments. So we then adapted our TV campaign to focus more specifically on those and show those people the piece of copy that was most relevant to them. And that allowed us to continue for a lot longer in a more efficient manner.
You've got to say that at the heart of the success of Direct Line is the power of the 30-second spot. Its ability in such a short and effective, efficient period of time to land proposition after proposition after proposition and build a story. And though this campaign works across many touch points, the thing that does the heavy lifting is the core television commercial. It was always very important to Harvey, to Quentin Tarantino and to Miramax that we were looking after that character. Part of that is the edginess of the humour. Now, I think that edge also helps us in conventional advertising terms as well.
We just need to dispose of the body then.
It is something of a paradox that these are straightforward proposition launch advertising adverts, but it just never feels like that. It feels like there's some drama, some story, some intrigue. The word rewarding gets used. So it's almost like not like normal advertising, but in a way it's absolutely back to benefit, reason to believe.
And do not be under any illusion as well that he's a credibility multiplier as well. So when Winston Wolfe delivers a proposition, you know that's going to happen. He doesn't just drive attribution, which he does amazingly. He also drives credibility.
Call Direct Line. They'll arrange a hire car.
Won't have to wait for mine to go in for repair.
Not with Direct Line.
What about us?
Are you with Direct Line?
No.
Then on your bike, Buster.
When we're planning, obviously, we're not doing that in isolation. So your TV approach and how you're laying down your schedule has to take in sort of insight and understanding from what else is going on in the world. So actually using search data to understand when people are looking for different products, when people are actually in market, was really useful to help us adapt our TV schedule to move the spot times, days of week, time of day, and optimise that to drive people to ultimately to purchase. So cinema was an obvious choice when you're using a character from a film, but actually what cinema was able to do was to add a level of quality. I mean, we're trying to position Direct Line as high-performance insurance, and the environment that cinema offers was great for doing that. Everyone uses YouTube to look for how to do things, how to fix things, and that was a brilliant piece of insight in relation to our campaign. So rather than creating cut-down versions of the TV ad, actually creating specific pieces of copy. So we had how to tie a tie.
I'm Winston Wolfe. I'm here to help. You're trying to find out how to tie a tie? Watch this video of my associate Billy.
How to get red wine off a stain.
He's cleaned up a lot of clarity this time. With red wine, you got exactly 45 seconds before it gets really messy. So here's the deal. Apply salt. Wait 2 minutes. Vacuum. Like it never happened.
I think the critical thing about this is that the idea is not the Winston Wolfe TV campaign. The idea is to shift an insurer from being an insurance company to being a fixing company and proud of its ability to deliver high-performance insurance. Now, what's critical about that is that's not just good news when it comes to hard-working advertising. That's good news when you go beyond advertising into social spaces, when you go into content creation, and you allow the brand to live in more places and critically at more times than it normally would. If you imagine that usually you're only interested in insurance for 35 days of the year when you're in renewal, well, that doesn't give us a great palette to play with in terms of building this brand and its reputation. So to be able to take fixing out of the 35 days and do it elsewhere has been an important part of this story.
Sharp as a tack.
We also decided to partner with The Guardian to create an editorial content series around fixing, and it was called Fixology. It was in a really, really deep partnership with editorial and commercial. And what we were able to achieve from that was getting The Guardian writers to talk about how to fix things in everyday life. And actually, one of the pieces about how to get spiders out of your house ended up being one of the most shared pieces of content on the internet for that week.
We also had a big social campaign which has been going on for the last couple of years, the Direct Line Fix, Everyday Fixes, where we did a big listen and respond campaign that allowed us to spot issues and problems that people were having and then go and solve them in sort of surprising ways, whether that be delivering Christmas decorations to their workplace. Last Christmas we helped lots of people with Christmas turkeys when they'd had a turkey disaster. Direct Line stepped in and solved that for them, but that really allowed us to prove our fixing credentials in a way that was engaging outside of insurance. The business was in real declining share of a declining market, and it was a pretty woeful place to find ourselves. Reboot has really turned around that performance pretty much from day one, pretty much from the launch of the campaign. We've seen brand health improve, customer numbers have improved, the brand has been in growth every quarter since we've launched Reboot. We've seen marketing effectiveness improve, quote volumes improve. It's been a real success story.
Prize plum.
Sorry?
It goes well with Magnolia.
Return on media investment is absolutely critical. Direct Line spend a huge amount of time analysing every line on the media plan to understand how it is working and how it's driving back. What we were able to see from this campaign was a 40% improvement in return on investment for the TV spend.
So there's no doubt that TV is really critical for us. It's sort of symbolic of the idea, but also it's incredibly efficient. And because the advertising construct is working so well, it's actually one of our best returning media lines from a marketing effectiveness point of view. So the win-win is it has great cut through, feels very sort of emphatic, but also delivers the numbers. So it's sort of the first line on the media plan. And I know the world's going digital and we still do some of that, but it's still the first line on the plan.
Well, I think the most critical thing that this campaign did was it readdressed how people were thinking about Direct Line insurance and the quality of the product. And that's critical in a market that is particularly commoditised and price-led, and people looking for the lowest possible price for their insurance. Actually, what this did was get people to understand that quality insurance, that high-performance insurance was important, and was particularly important to the people we were specifically talking to.
Can you send me a new one?
Sure. Now, your daughter Connie comes home at 3:30 in the p.m., correct? That gives us 40 minutes to get the fudge out of Raj.
Well, I didn't grow up as a boy imagining that I would really want to work in insurance, but now I've been in it 5 years. It is astonishing how multifaceted and interesting it is. What I mean by that is with the advent of driverless cars, connected homes, artificial intelligence, blockchain, the sharing economy, it probably is the sector with the single highest propensity to be disrupted quite radically. In a nutshell, insurance has been a business of restitution, putting things right when they've gone wrong. But in the future, I think insurance will become a business of prevention, stopping things happening before they've gone wrong. And insurance will become more of a service of prevention than a process of restitution. The brand had been market leader, and so probably the biggest thing that the campaign has achieved is to restore that market leadership and the market leadership mentality that we can do big things, bold things, and triumph and achieve our commercial objectives, but also really re-engage the organisation and be proud again for the things that it did for many years. And rediscovering that lost sense of pride, I think, is the thing that I relate to most as the campaign's biggest achievement. Over and above all the numbers, it's really reconnected the organisation back to its purpose.
I'm a big believer that when we do our job really well, it's about effectiveness, not just efficiency. It's about having an effect and also not taking no for an answer. I mean, not accepting. I don't see why any brand should have to accept the market conditions they operate in as a sort of given. I mean, Direct Line decided they were not going to accept that price comparison websites were inevitable way this industry was going. They refused to be on it, and we've turned that into a virtue.
The importance of a brand particularly in a market which can be seen as quite commoditized, and actually a product that you don't necessarily ever want to use, is really, really important. Because actually what people are buying isn't an insurance policy. What they're buying is kind of peace of mind that everything in their life is going to carry on going as smoothly as it possibly can do. So yeah, the brand perception and the brand behind that is critical.
The bad news is that Joey here is going to have to remove your ball cock. Huh? The good news is that Joey's an emergency plumber, and that's covered under your Direct Line Home Plus insurance. I'll leave you two to it.
For me, the first thing is that Marketing 101 is absolutely alive and well. So whilst how you take campaigns to consumers might have changed with new technology and new media, the golden rules still apply. You know, who are your customers? What do they really want? What's their unmet need that your brand is uniquely placed to deliver? Then how do you get your business to deliver that? And then how do you communicate that to consumers in a really compelling way? And that's what I learned back at university many years ago, and it still applies today. And I think that's something that I'll take with me into future marketing tasks and challenges. But I think that's a real lesson to it.
Well, it wasn't something we set out to achieve. You know, this notion of a golden thread, it gets talked about, but what does it really mean? But it was, as we post-rationalise it, that the industry was kind of broken in terms of what it actually does at the point of need had been forgotten, dominated by price. Certainly a broken marketing team in terms of engagement, capability, confidence, pride, and a bit of a broken brand. It was in systemic decline. And so isn't it amazing that the unmet need and the core insight that holds everything together is about fixing? And I think in fixing consumers' needs, we also fixed, to some extent, the brand, the marketing team, the business, and without sounding arrogant, I think the sector, because now we're seeing others follow us down the route of differentiating and adding value to customers.